Hi guys, so James O'Brien from LBC has a slogan, compassion for the conned, contempt for the conmen, meaning that we should open our hearts to those who voted for Brexit or Boris Johnson not knowing what it was or not knowing what he would become. The contempt part is of course for those charlatans who sold the lie about Brexit or Boris Johnson himself for being in the upside down when it came to truth. However, sometimes we must put our foot on the brake when it comes to expressing compassion for people who voted for a crook and still think he should stay. Here Sky News interviewed not one, but 3 people who think Boris Johnson has been hard done by.
We can get some reaction from some of those who voted for the Conservatives back then. Dave, as the landlord of the Sportsman, very kindly welcomed us in this evening. You were a Boris fan then, you're still a Boris fan now. What was your reaction to what happened today?
I just think it's disgraceful that the man that we voted in, the Conservatives voted in, and the North of England voted in, the Red Wall voted in, lots of first-time voters, lots of people who normally voted Labour, and now it's been taken away from us, whether rightly or wrongly, but the general public haven't had the chance to have their say and say how they feel. We knew what we were getting when we voted for Boris. We knew he makes silly mistakes and says things that he doesn't mean and has his jokes. We knew that when we elected him.
So we knew that he was a liar when we elected him. So for you, lying is not a problem. Then what did you vote for? What did you actually vote for? You voted for Boris Johnson for what? Because of what he was going to do? Well then, obviously, if he's a liar and you don't have a problem with him lying, then how did you know he was going to do those things? Like, this guy is not saying, I voted for Boris Johnson because I believed he was going to do X, Y, and Z. And then I discovered after that he's a liar, but I'm going to give him a chance. No, this guy's saying, I knew Boris Johnson was a liar, but I voted for him anyway. But my question is, then what were you expecting him to do? Because if he's a liar, then how did you know he was going to actually do that? But for you, that didn't matter. You just voted for him because of his name, because he ruffles his hair. Because what's the actual motivation to vote for Boris Johnson?
It's been taken away from us by a relentless media campaign.
But even your local MP, the Conservative MP, resigned in the last 24 hours because he'd had enough of it.
Yes, he did. But it's like I said earlier. When the MPs start to switch, they all seem to jump on the same ship. They all leave as one. And
sorry, I thought it was a media campaign. He started off by saying because of this relentless media campaign, and then he was corrected by, well, your own MP abandoned the Prime Minister, and his response is, well, because everyone jumped on the same bandwagon. So which is it, the media or is it the MPs actually turning on Boris Johnson? Because this is not the Labour Party attacking Boris Johnson. This is not the media attacking Boris Johnson. This is his own party turning on him. You can't blame the media here. The media is not bringing down Boris Johnson's government. It's his own bloody party.
My opinion is that they should have stood by him. They should have stood by Boris because he's the man who got them elected. Lots of these Conservative MPs with very slight majorities probably won't get voted in again. And I think it's an own goal. I think
they said they couldn't trust him. I mean, can you say that you still trust him as a person?
It's what we voted for. We knew what we were getting. And the big decisions, he's got every big decision right.
Okay. So he doesn't actually give a reason why he voted for Boris Johnson. We wanted him in. So you know he's a liar, but you wanted him in anyway. But wanted him in for what? To do what? Because as soon as you say, well, I wanted him in to deliver Brexit, well, that hasn't succeeded, has it? We're still talking about Brexit. There's still the threat to the Northern Ireland Protocol. And also Boris Johnson lied about a border in the Irish Sea. But maybe this man doesn't care about that.
We were the first out of lockdown. We were the first with the vaccines.
First out of lockdown. Do you understand that some countries didn't even need to go into a lockdown? Some countries went into lockdown much later than the UK. Some countries went into lockdown before and finished before the UK. Like, the first where in the world, in Europe? Where? What is he talking about? And then the vaccines? It was not necessary to leave the European Union, to be outside the EU, to roll out the vaccines. For example, Hungary was at the same level when it came to the rollout of the vaccine as the UK. And Hungary is a member of the European Union.
It was great through COVID. It's been great with the Ukraine situation.
He's been great through COVID. Great is doing a lot of heavy lifting here, isn't it? Great. Boris Johnson is either directly or indirectly responsible for the deaths of thousands of people. Because of his policies, because of his actions. At the very beginning, I was criticizing him for not wearing a mask. He could have worn a mask and promoted this as a form of protection. He didn't do that. He went into lockdown late, not from my point of view, but from the point of view of SAGE. He ignored advice. He was told to go into lockdown, and he waited and waited and waited, and many people's lives were lost because of his incompetence or his narcissism, his political narcissism.
The big decisions he's got right. Okay, he's made a few slip-ups with his comments, his joke. It's his joking nature. We all knew he was like that. That's why we voted for him.
So now we know why this guy voted. He voted for Boris Johnson because he slips up and because he makes jokes. So you're literally saying you voted for a comedian to be Prime Minister. Not you voted for somebody who used to be a comedian or is a comedian part-time. No, you're literally saying you voted for a guy who makes jokes. That's why you wanted him to be Prime Minister. And to hell with whatever happened, and to hell with the fact that he lies, you voted for him because he's a joke.
That's why the average man in the street voted for him.
Well, you mentioned COVID, and Mark's next to you, and like the Prime Minister, ended up in intensive care with yes, COVID. You voted for him. What's your feeling today?
I think that it's a great shame, the manner in which things have taken place. I think that a person who can have such foresight as he had...
What the heck does this mean? Foresight? Boris Johnson was saying take it on the chin, while other countries were initiating lockdowns. Boris Johnson was basically saying we'll be okay when other countries were imposing restrictions. How is that foresight? If he was saying, no, we need to do these lockdowns before other countries, that would be foresight. He was acting late. This is the complete opposite of foresight.
To be basically stabbed in the back, I think is a disgrace.
I'd like to ask David, could you with the parties and with what's happened recently with an MP accused of serious sexual assault, and he didn't take action on that, could you still trust him after all of those?
You turn around and say serious sexual assault, and yet nothing was done about it?
What do you mean nothing was done about it? It was upheld. The investigation was upheld. Why nothing was done about it was because people within power decided we don't want to go any further. An investigation was carried out, and the result of that investigation was upheld, which basically means he was found guilty.
I would turn around and say that until it's actually proved, those kind of things are not the things that really should be being talked about at this particular time.
I have no idea what he's trying to get at here. Remember, this is in a pub, okay? So maybe this guy has had a few too many to drink. I'm not saying that he did, but to come up with some ridiculous statements like this, maybe this is the reason.
Anne's also with us on the other side of the table. Hi, Anne. What was it? I mean, so much talk about the Red Wall and the Conservatives winning in places like this. What was it about Boris Johnson? What is it about Boris Johnson that still persuades people like that?
He's young.
I'm trying to... Okay. I'm trying to be serious here. People voted for Boris Johnson because he's young. He's not that young, okay? I'm younger than Boris Johnson, and I hope nobody would vote for me because of my age.
He's got foresight.
Once again, this foresight. What foresight? He acted late. Foresight to do what? Give us a demonstration of his foresight. Because when Many countries were going into lockdown. Boris Johnson was refusing it. When Sage told him you need to go into a lockdown, Boris Johnson didn't go into a lockdown. He was basically dragged kicking and screaming towards doing a lockdown. And then Keir Starmer later on in the year said, look, we need to trigger another lockdown. Boris Johnson refused and refused and refused and then went along with it. How is that foresight?
He actually stood for what we believed in.
He stood for... I thought he lied. I thought that the other guy was saying, yeah, I voted for him because he's a liar and he doesn't tell the truth. Like, yeah, he said, well, that just comes with the territory. He's a bit of a joke. And this woman is saying, because he stood for us, or he stood for what we believe in.
And he went at it with force.
Who went at what with force? He went at Brexit with force? He went against COVID with force? What is she talking about?
He was a good man and still is a good man. Yes, he's made mistakes. We all make mistakes. Huge mistakes.
I haven't made a mistake, and I don't think this lady has made a mistake that has resulted in the deaths of tens of thousands of people. I don't think I or this lady have made mistakes that have resulted in businesses closing and people being laid off, or businesses suffering extra costs that are to the value of hundreds of millions or billions of pounds.
All this about Partygate and all the rest of it is just nonsense. It was all hyped up just to start getting him out.
These people, and where did they read it? They read it in the likes of the Express, or they watch it on GB News. This idea that it was about cake. Boris Johnson was removed because of cake. Or Boris Johnson was removed because he was having a bit of fun. Or Boris Johnson was removed because he was having a birthday party. And that's it. People were upset about a birthday party. It was just a birthday party. We all have birthday parties. It was a bit of cake. Who hasn't eaten cake in their life? Boris Johnson wrote the rules. He told people to follow the rules. He told people that if they did not follow the rules, there would be consequences. Both there would be fines and they would be putting others at risk. And then Boris Johnson broke those rules. He lied about it. He lied about it in Parliament, which is serious. Maybe it's not for these people. Maybe these people say, well, he lies, everyone lies, so even if they lie in Parliament, it doesn't make any difference. The fact that Boris Johnson lied in Parliament and Parliament is incapable of holding him to account is extremely serious.
And it's wrong. Very wrong.
And thanks to all of you. That's the view here. As
once again, I come back to this main point at the beginning. Compassion for the conned, but can you have compassion for people who decided to vote for Boris Johnson because he's a liar and a clown, and then say he got all the big calls right, obviously regurgitating right-wing media talking points, and then say that, well, there was nothing really, he didn't really do anything wrong, and we all make mistakes. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.